I was rinsing dinner plates when my husband's phone lit up. His mother texted, "Did you subscribe yet?" I froze. Then another message came. "You don't have to look. Just support me." When he saw my face, he went pale. That was the night I realized my marriage had a problem I could no longer explain away. For years, I told myself Diana was just lonely. That was the word I kept using whenever she crossed a line with Jason. Lonely. Overattached. Dramatic. Maybe a little needy, but not dangerous. She had raised him mostly on her own, and everyone in his family treated that like a permanent excuse. If she called during dinner, Jason answered. If she cried over some small argument with a neighbor, Jason calmed her down. At first, I thought he was just a good son. Then I noticed how his face changed whenever her name appeared on his phone. He could be laughing with me one second, then tense and guilty the next. It was like her mood reached into our house before she even spoke. Diana had a way of making every normal moment feel like a test. At family dinners, she called him her favorite man. She joked, "I had him first," then watched my face like she was waiting for me to flinch. If Jason put his arm around me, she found a reason to touch his shoulder or ask him to sit closer because she couldn't hear him. People laughed it off. I laughed too, because I did not want to be the wife who made everything awkward. I bought her birthday gifts. I invited her to dinner. I reminded Jason to call her when he forgot. I told myself she was harmless, even when she made me feel like a guest in my own marriage. Then Diana lost her job. She called Jason first. I was in the kitchen when he answered, and I heard the crying before he even put the phone to his ear properly. His shoulders dropped, and he looked at me with that helpless expression I had seen too many times. After the call, he said, "She's scared." And I believed him. No matter how complicated things were between Diana and me, I did not want her to suffer. So when Jason asked if we could help her for a short while, I agreed. We had one condition. No money from our shared account unless we both talked about it first. Jason nodded immediately. "Of course," he said. "I would never hide that from you." For a few weeks, Diana acted embarrassed and grateful. She kept saying she hated needing help. She said she was applying everywhere. She said she just needed time to get back on her feet. Then her mood changed. She started sounding almost excited when she called Jason. She said she had found a way to make money online. She used vague words like content, supporters, and private page. I assumed she meant videos, life advice, maybe some kind of paid community. It sounded strange coming from her, but I didn't question it too much. I wish I had. The night I saw the message, Jason had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. I was cleaning up after dinner when the screen lit up. "Did you subscribe yet?" I need the first few supporters so the page doesn't look dead. I stared at it, trying to make it innocent. Then the next message appeared. "Don't be immature about it. You don't even have to look at anything. Just help your mother." My stomach turned before I fully understood why. You don't have to look. Just help your mother. Those were not normal words. Not for a recipe page. Not for a craft shop. Not for anything a mother should be asking from her son. When the shower stopped, I stayed where I was. Jason came downstairs a few minutes later, rubbing a towel over his hair. He looked at me, then at his phone, then back at me. "What's wrong?" he asked. I pointed at the counter. "What page is your mother asking you to subscribe to?" He froze. That was my first answer. Before he said a word, his face told me he already knew it was wrong. He said, "Amanda, it's not what you think." I hated that sentence. People only say that when they know exactly what it looks like. "Then explain it," I said. He looked away and rubbed both hands over his face. Then he told me Diana had started a private paid page with content that no parent should ever ask their child to support. He said it quickly, then tried to wrap it in softer words. Private. Tasteful. Just support. Not looking. Desperate. Embarrassed. Trying to survive. I stood there listening to my husband explain why his mother had asked him to become one of her first paying supporters on a page he should never have been connected to in any way. I asked, "Did you subscribe?" "No," he said quickly. I swear I didn't. Why was there even a conversation after she asked? He blinked like he did not understand. So I asked again. "Why was there a conversation, Jason?" He said she was desperate. He said she didn't know who else to ask. He said she felt ashamed and didn't want strangers finding an empty page. He said she told him he would not have to view anything, just pay so it looked active. I said, she asked her son to support a private page no son should ever be involved with. He flinched. "Don't say it like that." "How else should I say it?" "You're making it sound disgusting." "It is disgusting. Not because she has the page. Because she asked you." That was when he raised his voice. He said I was judging her. He said she was a grown woman trying to survive. He said everyone supports women until the woman is older, broke, and doing something uncomfortable. He said I had always wanted a reason to hate his mother. That hurt more than I expected because it was not true. I had spent years trying not to hate Diana. I said, I don't care what she does with her life. I care that she dragged you into it. He said, she just wanted support. I said, from her son. He had no real answer, so he kept repeating I didn't subscribe. Like that erased the rest. But the damage was not only whether he clicked a button. The damage was that he had not shut it down. He had not told her it was inappropriate. He had comforted her. He had tried to find another way to keep her from feeling rejected. And that was the pattern. Diana pushed. Jason softened. I swallowed it. That night turned into one of the worst fights of our marriage. It stopped being only about the messages and became everything I had avoided saying for years. I told him I was tired of his mother treating him like a partner instead of a son. I was tired of every boundary becoming a debate because Diana might cry. I was tired of being expected to understand her loneliness while nobody cared how uncomfortable she made me feel. Jason said, you don't understand my family. I said, maybe because your family keeps calling this normal. He walked into the living room and sat on the couch with his head in his hands. I stayed in the kitchen until the counters were dry and my chest hurt from holding back tears. The next morning, he had already left when I woke up. No note. No text. For a few hours, I wondered if I had gone too far. That is what happens when you spend years around people who blur lines. When you finally name the problem, you feel like the problem is you. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe Diana was just panicking. Maybe I had made something awkward into something unforgivable. Then my phone rang. It was Diana. I almost ignored it, but I wanted to hear what she would say without Jason softening it afterward. So I answered. Her voice was sweet at first. Amanda, I know you're uncomfortable, she said. I wanted to talk woman to woman. I don't want you feeling threatened. I let out a short laugh before I could stop myself. Threatened? I said. Diana, I'm not threatened. I'm disturbed. The sweetness disappeared. I gave birth to him, she said. There is nothing inappropriate between a mother and son. Then why are you asking him to support something you wouldn't want your father looking at? She told me I was twisting it. She said family supports family. She said I was pretending to be open-minded while shaming an older woman for trying to support herself. Then her voice lowered. You've always hated that he still needs me. I said no. I hate that you need him like he's your husband. There was silence. Then she said, be careful, Amanda. Men don't like being controlled. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the phone on the bed. That call settled something for me. Diana was not confused. She knew exactly what line she had crossed. She just believed she had the right to cross it. For the next 2 weeks, our house felt wrong. Jason and I still lived together, but we moved around each other like strangers. We talked about groceries, laundry, bills, and nothing deeper. He slept in the guest room twice, not because I told him to, but because he said I was looking at him differently. He was right. I was. I did not believe anything physical was happening between him and his mother. I need to be clear about that. What scared me was quieter. I saw a man who panicked when his mother was upset. A man who could argue with me for hours, but could not tell her one firm no. A man who treated my discomfort like an overreaction and her discomfort like an emergency. One night I asked, did you tell her what she asked was inappropriate? He said, I told her I couldn't do it. That's not what I asked. He sighed. Amanda, what do you want from me? I want you to say the words. What words? That asking you to support that page was inappropriate. He rubbed his forehead. I don't want to shame her. Something in me went quiet. There it was again. Her shame mattered more than my peace. A few days later, I sat down to check our account. We had bills coming up, and I wanted to make sure everything looked right. That was when I saw the withdrawal. $700. It was not a bill. It was not groceries. It was not transferred into another household account. It was just gone. When Jason came home, I had the statement on the table. He saw it before he even sat down. His shoulders dropped. I said, tell me that did not go to your mother. He said nothing. I asked, did you take $700 from our shared account and send it to Diana? Very quietly he said, yes. I stared at him. He rushed to explain. She was crying. Her bills were piling up. Her page wasn't making money. He didn't subscribe, he said, so he thought sending money directly was better. Better? I asked. Instead of doing what she asked. I said, you rewarded her for asking. His face crumpled. I was trying to help. No. You were trying to keep her calm. He said I was being unfair. I said, we had one rule. We discussed shared money first. I knew you'd say no. Exactly. That silence told me everything. The messages had made me uncomfortable. The secret transfer made me feel betrayed. He had taken money that belonged to both of us and hidden it because he knew I would not agree. I stood up and walked upstairs. Jason followed me. Amanda, please don't do this. I pulled a suitcase from the closet. Where are you going? He asked. To my sister's. For how long? I don't know. His panic showed immediately. You're leaving me over $700? I turned around. No. I'm leaving because you made me the enemy in my own marriage so you could keep being her comfort. He started crying, but I kept packing. Clothes, charger, toothbrush, and a folder with copies of important documents. I did not have a plan. I just knew I could not stay in that house and keep pretending the ground under me was solid. Before I left, he stood near the door. He said I didn't subscribe. I didn't do the thing you're accusing me of. I said no. You did the thing you always do. You chose her feelings over our trust. He stepped aside. I drove to my sister Heather's house with the radio off. I did not cry until I was almost there. Then it hit me all at once, quiet and humiliating, the kind of crying that makes your throat ache. Heather opened the door before I knocked. She took one look at me and said, "What happened?" I walked inside and said, "I don't even know how to explain it." But I did explain it. The texts. The private page. The fight. Diana's phone call. The $700. By the time I finished, Heather was standing at the kitchen counter with her hands pressed flat against it. She said, "That is not normal." I cried harder than I expected, because I needed someone to say it plainly. For 3 days, I stayed in Heather's guest room and barely slept. Jason texted constantly at first. Some messages were apologies. Some were explanations. Some were panicked fragments. Please talk to me. I know I messed up. I don't want this to be us. I did not answer most of them. Then the family messages started. That was when I knew Diana had turned it into a campaign. Christine, Jason's aunt, sent a long message about compassion and how cruel it was to abandon family during hard times. She said Diana was fragile and humiliated. She said marriage required forgiveness, not judgment. Matthew, Jason's cousin, was harsher. He called me insecure and controlling. He said I was trying to separate Jason from the woman who raised him. I read those messages sitting on Heather's bed and felt like I was losing my mind. They kept making the issue sound like money, or jealousy, or my attitude toward Diana. Nobody said the real thing. Nobody said Diana had asked her son to support a private page he should never have been connected to. They buried it under softer words because the plain truth made her look bad. Support. Family. Independence. Hard times. They used every word except boundary. On the second night, Jason called. I almost ignored it, but Heather sat beside me and nodded like she thought I should answer. So I did. Jason sounded wrecked. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" I asked. He was quiet. "I need you to be specific." He took a shaky breath. "For sending the money without telling you." I waited. "And?" "For not shutting my mom down." I waited again. "And?" His voice cracked. "For making you feel like you were the problem." That one landed. He said, "I don't know how to stop panicking when she's upset." For the first time since the kitchen, he sounded honest instead of defensive. "When she cries," he said, "I feel like I'm a kid again. Like if I don't fix it, something terrible will happen." I know that sounds stupid. "It doesn't sound stupid," I said. "It sounds like something you need help with." He cried then, and I hated that part of me still wanted to comfort him. Because I loved him. That was the worst part. I did not leave because I stopped loving him. I left because loving him had started to mean accepting things that were hurting me. I told him I would come home on Sunday to talk. Not to stay, I said. To talk. Before I hung up, he said his uncle Larry had texted him. What did he say? I asked. Jason was quiet for a moment. He said I needed to wake up. A few minutes later, Larry texted me too. Amanda, you're not crazy. Diana crossed a line. Jason needs to stop pretending this is normal. I stared at that message for a long time. It did not fix anything, but it gave me something solid to stand on. By Sunday, I knew what I needed to say. I did not want revenge. I did not want to destroy Diana. I did not even want to force Jason to cut her off. I wanted my marriage to stop orbiting his mother's emotions. When I came home, the house looked clean in a way that almost made me angry. The dishes were done. The pillows were arranged. There were flowers on the table, too small and pretty for what had happened. Jason was sitting at the kitchen table. He looked exhausted. I kept my coat on when I sat down. He noticed. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm here because I need to know if this marriage can be repaired." He nodded quickly. "I want to fix it." "Then listen before you respond." I had written down what I wanted to say because I knew I might soften if he cried or explode if he got defensive. I wanted to be clear. I said, "Your mother's private page is not the center of this. What she does with her life is her choice. I am not trying to control her." He nodded. "But asking you to support it crossed a line. Your reaction showed me you don't know how to protect our marriage when she is upset." His eyes filled, but he stayed quiet. "The $700 was another betrayal," I said. "You used shared money after we agreed not to do that without talking. You hid it because you knew I would say no. That was not a mistake. That was a choice." He whispered, "I know. If we stay married, there are conditions." He looked up. "The money goes back into the shared account from your personal savings. No shared money goes to your mother unless we both agree first. We go to counseling. And you tell your mother clearly that what she asked was inappropriate and that she cannot involve you in that page again." That was when he froze. I saw the fear return to his face. "Not fear of me. Fear of her." He said, "Can I text her?" "No. Amanda. She needs to hear your voice. She's going to lose it." "I know. She'll blame you. She already has." He looked away, and for a long moment neither of us spoke. Then he said, "I think I've been scared of her my whole life. That softened something in me, but it did not erase the hurt." He said, "Not scared like she'd hurt me. Scared of what happens when she feels rejected. When I was younger, if I wanted to do something without her, she'd get quiet for days. She'd say she guessed she didn't matter anymore. I learned to fix it before it got that far. I listened. When she asked me to support the page, I felt sick," he said. "I knew it was wrong. But she cried, and I went into that mode. Just make her calm down. Just make it stop. And you let me carry the discomfort instead." He closed his eyes. Yes, that one word hurt, but it mattered because he finally admitted it without defending himself. Jason placed his phone on the table and called Diana. His hand was shaking. She answered quickly. "Have you finally talked some sense into your wife?" Jason flinched, but he did not back down. "Mom, Amanda is not the problem." Diana laughed bitterly. "So she's sitting there coaching you?" "No," he said. "I'm calling because I need to say this clearly. What you asked me to do was inappropriate. I asked my son for support. You asked me to support a private page I should never be part of. I told you not to look. That doesn't make it okay." Her voice sharpened. "She's twisting this. She's always been jealous of me." Jason looked at me, then back at the phone. "This is not Amanda's fault." Diana started crying. She said she had no one. She said she was humiliated. She said Jason was letting his wife shame her when she was only trying to survive. For a second, I thought he would break. His eyes filled again, and his fingers pressed hard against the table. Then he said, "I love you, Mom. I'll help you look for work or make a budget, but I will not be involved with that page. I will not send you money behind Amanda's back. And you cannot use guilt to make me ignore my marriage." Diana went quiet. Then she exploded. She called me controlling. She called him weak. She said I had poisoned him. She said he was choosing an outsider over the woman who raised him. Then she said, "After everything I gave up for you?" Jason closed his eyes. When he opened them, his voice was calm. "You made this wrong, Mom. Not Amanda." Then he ended the call. For a few seconds, the kitchen was silent. Jason put his head in his hands and cried. I did not rush to comfort him. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because for once, I needed him to sit with the pain of choosing a boundary. The fallout came fast. Diana blocked me, which honestly felt like the closest thing to peace she had ever given me. Then she sent Jason walls of messages. Some angry, some sad, some written like emergencies until he read them twice and realized they were guilt in a different costume. She said she could not believe he had changed. She said she hoped I was happy. She said a good son would never let his mother feel abandoned. The old Jason would have gone to her apartment that night. The old Jason would have sent money. This time, he showed me the messages. That was the first real repair. Not flowers. Not apologies. Transparency. He replaced the $700 the next morning. We separated our money more clearly after that. Not as punishment, but because I needed the ground under me to feel solid again. Counseling was harder than I expected. Part of me wanted Jessica, our counselor, to simply tell Jason I was right. I wanted official confirmation that I was not crazy. But therapy did not let either of us hide behind one event. Jessica said Diana's request was inappropriate. She said it plainly, and I watched Jason absorb it. Then she asked about the years before it. The calls. The guilt. The comments I laughed off. The way Jason felt responsible for Diana's loneliness. The way I chose silence so I would not be labeled dramatic. That was painful because it meant Jason had work to do, but so did I. I had let resentment build where boundaries should have been. I had swallowed discomfort until the truth came out like an explosion. That did not make Diana's behavior okay. It did not make Jason's secrecy okay. But it explained how we got there. Jason started individual counseling too. Some weeks were better than others. Sometimes Diana's name still appeared on his phone, and I saw the old panic flash across his face. The difference was, he started pausing. He would put the phone down. He would breathe. He would say, "I don't have to fix this right now." The first time he said that, I almost cried. Diana did not vanish from our lives. People like her rarely do. She shifted tactics. Sometimes she acted wounded. Sometimes cold. Sometimes she sent old photos with captions like, "Back when you loved me." Jason did not handle every moment perfectly. Once, he almost drove over because she claimed she was feeling dizzy, but he called Larry first. Larry checked on her and found out she was fine. Angry, but fine. That night, Jason came home and said, "I think she knew I would panic." I said, "I think she did too." He sat beside me on the couch, looking tired in a way I had never seen before. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not the kind of sorry that tries to end a fight. A real one." I said, "I know." And I did. But trust does not come back just because someone finally understands what they broke. I still check the account more often than I used to. I still tense when Diana's name appears on his phone. I still wonder what would have happened if I had not seen those messages. Would he have told me? Would he have kept sending money? Would our marriage have kept bending around her until there was nothing left of us? I don't know. What I do know is that our house is calmer now. Jason no longer answers every call like a command. Diana no longer gets automatic access to our money, our time, or our emotional space. And I no longer laugh through comments that make my skin crawl just because everyone else wants to pretend they are jokes. Maybe that is not revenge. Maybe it is not karma. But there is a quiet victory in watching someone finally understand the shape of the wound they helped create. Diana wanted me to be the villain who stole her son. Instead, I became the person who forced him to see that being a good son should not require being a bad husband. I still don't hate her. I hate what she normalized. I hate what Jason accepted. I hate how close I came to believing my discomfort was the problem. But I do not hate her. She is lonely, scared, and angry that the person she leaned on most is finally learning to stand somewhere she cannot reach. That does not mean I owe her the center of my marriage. For now, Jason and I are still together. We are rebuilding slowly. Some days feel hopeful. Some days feel heavy. Healing is not a dramatic speech. Sometimes it is just a quiet dinner where nobody's phone ruins the room. Last week, Diana texted Jason, "I hope she was worth it." He showed me the message. Then he typed back, "My marriage is worth protecting." He placed the phone face down on the table and asked if I wanted tea. I said yes. For the first time in months, the silence between us did not feel dangerous. It felt like peace. So now I keep wondering if I did the right thing. Was I wrong for turning one disturbing request and one secret transfer into a marriage-level ultimatum, or was I right to finally stop pretending this was normal?